Okay, so we are recording this very special edition of ABNcast in actually a very special place. It's like our second home for ABN, because those of you know, MRO Management runs its Predictive Aircraft Maintenance Conference in Dublin, or did last year in November. But we're back because we've been invited by our friends at EirTrade, who sponsor the Predictive Aircraft Maintenance Conference, to see the Wayfinding Centre in Dublin. Now, we're actually sat at the moment in an old Air France aircraft, and it's here courtesy of EirTrade and my guest today, Frank O'Hagan from Altavair. Frank, explain why we're here, what we're doing here, and what this centre is all about.
Okay, so the Wayfinding Centre is first in the world disability training centre for pan disabilities. Kevin will help me further define that. But ideally, it's to create a safe environment for people with disabilities of all types. I think one of the leading organisations that put in place this facility is Vision Ireland.
Right. So Kevin he's behind the camera,
yeah,
and Kevin is from Vision Ireland. Is that right? So
yeah.
Kevin is going to show the people who are visiting here today what walking around an aircraft feels like when you're not sighted, which is obviously a very difficult thing. It's difficult to get around the world normally, but to get into an aircraft like this, it's be very difficult. And I think, as was said a moment ago in the introduction, there are increasing numbers of people with disabilities, and those people who have disabilities, they tend not to travel because they're afraid of it. And of course, we must do as much as we can to encourage people to travel. So that's what this is all about, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah. So we have in the facility here several modes of transport. From we have a taxi, a bus, a tram carriage, and a train carriage, and also the A319 here as well. So the idea is that the full spectrum of transportation is covered here. So somebody with a disability can come here and practice getting on and off a bus or getting on and off an airplane.
Yeah.
It's in the real world environment, it can be very difficult to experience these things. Take, for example, an Airbus A319. How often can you get on and sit on it and walk around it and figure out where all the seats are and emergency exits and cockpit and the lavatories and the like? So it gives a facility where people can learn in a safe environment and take their time and not be stressed and figure things out. So that's the idea behind it, and it seems to be very successful so far. It's going down very well, and hopefully in the future we'll see other wayfinding centres around the world repeating the same sort of thing.
And so explain Altavair's involvement in this. You helped get this aircraft, this fuselage into the centre.
I did indeed. So I was approached by Vision Ireland about the idea of the Wayfinding Centre. I was amazed by it. I thought it was a great idea. This was going to be really helpful for so many people into the long term. And on their wish list was an airplane. And I said, well, I can help you with that. And they said, well, that must be very complicated. I said, well, no, not for me. I work in an aircraft leasing company. I work in Altavair. And what we do is move airplanes around the world all the time. We move them between airlines. We send them for scrapping. We do all that sort of stuff as a regular part of our day-to-day business. So getting an airplane for the centre wasn't a big challenge in my eyes.
Yeah.
It was a lot in their eyes, but I said, no, I'll help and see what we can do. So I went to the aviation community and asked who has an airplane out there that can help. Thankfully, AirCap had an airplane that was right time, right place. Key requirement was that it needed to go to Knock in the west of Ireland, where the disassembly work would be performed. So thankfully, Air France arranged to fly the aircraft to Knock, and AirCap did a deal with EirTrade for them to do the work on the aircraft. EirTrade put tremendous amount of hours into preparing this module that we sit in today, the front section of an Airbus A319. They created a whole frame underneath it so it could be moved and transported. And we had a shipping company then that brought the module from the west of Ireland to here in Dublin on the back of a truck. And that was an exciting night to see it coming up the motorway and trying to maneuver its way into the building.
Yeah, because it's a big bit of kit. I mean, there's no wings on it, there's no undercarriage, but there's still quite a lot of aircraft left, isn't there?
No, they're as big as the train carriage that is in the corner here as well. So that was a logistical nightmare as well, trying to get that in. But the key thing about the airplane was it was the first transportation module to arrive in the centre here. And the building was empty at the time. And what it did was it had a bit of a snowball effect, because a lot of the other transport companies weren't believing in what we were trying to do here. But the fact that private industry was able to help donate an airplane really went down very well and really got them all to get up and, do the easier bit of donating a bus or donating a train.
I suppose without an aircraft, there's nothing missing, isn't there? You need this element of transport in here to give the full picture.
Exactly, yeah. It's to have the full spectrum of transportation from getting a taxi to a bus to a train to a tram to the airport and getting on the plane.
Yeah.
So that's what they've tried to recreate here, and it is really special.
And the centre, like you say, it's unique in the world. It's the first of its kind. It's not been open very long, since April. Was that last year? And today you've got, 100 or so guests coming through the centre who are here for the aviation economics conference.
That's on here this week. There's a lot of people in town. There's probably 3,000 people in Dublin this week. So I thought it was a great opportunity to highlight the centre to a lot of those people that are involved in aviation. A lot of key decision makers, a lot of people that are involved in the future of aviation, whether it's, on the manufacturing, leasing, aircraft trading side. So it's great to have people here today to experience this. I'm very passionate about it, and I hope their experience today will give them the same passion, so they can talk about it in their industries, in their companies, and hopefully try and help out in the longer term. And also the awareness on the challenges that those that have disabilities have in getting about on a normal day-to-day basis, and the challenges of using all forms of transportation. So hopefully it'll highlight it to them, and hopefully they will be able to help out overcome some of those challenges in the longer term.
Thanks for inviting us to experience it. It's been really good so far. We haven't done the tour yet, but I'm sure when we do the tour, it'll be even more enlightening. So, thanks very much. Cheers. Okay, so now I'm joined by Chris White, who's Chief Executive of Vision Ireland. Vision Ireland is a charity for the blind. It's the equivalent of RNIB in England, and I'm sure there's equivalents of them all over the world. Chris, welcome, and thanks for bringing us to the Wayfinding Centre today.
Thanks, Lee. Delighted to have you here. I'm very proud to show it off.
Yeah. When you introduced us earlier, you very quickly gave a very brief explanation as to why we're here. And so just explain the story behind the centre then.
So the Wayfinding Centre is a response to a tragedy that we had in 2017, where one of our service users fell onto the tracks of a train and was killed. The tactile paving had become worn away, and she got disorientated as to where she was on the platform. So we looked around the world and thought, what can we do to try and make sure that never happens again? And we couldn't find anything that really made any difference. So we came up with this concept of the Wayfinding Centre, which has every type of public transport and private transport in the country under one roof, and spent the last few years getting it together and rolling it out. And you're here as a testament to see what it is.
Yeah. So it's opened recently last year, I understand. Just gives an idea of how kind of amount of effort that's gone into to doing what's behind us. I mean, just having an aircraft fuselage is a feat in itself, I'm sure. But we've got a couple of buses, trains, trams, etc. So just give us an idea of the scale of the organisation of setting this thing up.
Yeah, so we've got 40,000 square feet here of space in which we've got everything you've said, Lee. Plus we have a TARDIS for Doctor Who fans. And we have roadways, and we have platforms, and we have an airport. And it's taken a huge amount of effort from a big team. But the challenge has been what we call our 3B problem. So there's no Berlin, Boston, or Birmingham version of this. I mean, you're trying to talk to people about, we've got this great idea. We're going to build this centre that has every form of public transport in it. Can you support it? And some people go, yeah, brilliant. That's a fantastic idea. Love to get behind that. And the National Transport Authority in Ireland were one of those organisations. A lot of other people go, why? What is it? I don't get it. And we couldn't point to anywhere else that has done it. So now that we have one here, we can actually point to what it does, how important it is, what change it will develop or impact, and how it's going to make the world a better place.
Yeah. So you see more of these appearing, maybe in a Berlin or Birmingham or where was the place? Boston. Okay. You see this as being pioneering, and maybe will prompt others to open up globally.
I think so. I think the travelling public are becoming less accepting of poor service. I think aviation in particular really struggles with vulnerable passengers, which is their terminology, not ours. I think there's a real gap between the expectation of what you should receive. Even the push towards silent airports is not very helpful if you've got somebody with vision impairments, when then you don't make your website's accessible, and there's not real-time information coming through your phone. So all these things that people don't really appreciate how difficult it is to travel, and especially when you're talking about aviation. People with disabilities hate traveling by airplane. They hate the airport experience, and they hate the actual airplane experience.
And as we were saying before we started chatting, with the demographics of people getting older or populations getting older, you're only going to have more of that issue with the general population. Even if they don't consider themselves disabled as such or officially disabled, they may need help or assistance in some way. And if they don't feel they get that, it puts them off travelling entirely, doesn't it?
Enormously. So you have an aging population, as you said, Lee, and we have a population that's used to travelling. And if they're then being denied that opportunity because we've disabled them by how we've set up our airports and how we've designed our planes, then that is going to be hugely impacting on people who have lived fully able lives and have been responsible for lots of decisions over the years, that they don't appreciate how challenging it is when they can't do it. Even temporary disability. Say you break a leg playing football, or you fall out over a curb, you twist an ankle, you suddenly realise how difficult it is to navigate the world.
So we are particularly interested in the aviation side of it, naturally, as aviation business news. And of course, mentioned the aircraft behind us, or the fuselage behind it. And it's here due to a few special aviation companies. So a shout out to those. What does their support mean to you personally and to the centre?
I think the point you made earlier, Lee, when we looked at this, trying to convince people, the catalyst for really making this happen was AerCap and AirTrans getting behind this and actually getting an aeroplane into the building, cut up, transported from the west of Ireland, brought in here at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday morning, and actually then people realizing this was a serious enterprise and this was actually going to happen. So without the support of AerCap and AirTrans, the scope and breadth of the centre wouldn't have happened. So we're enormously grateful for both of those companies, and we really appreciate their support.
I believe, the fuselage was the first thing to enter the building, wasn't it? So I guess at that point, you really started to see the vision come to life.
100%. So that was it. That plane we saw land in Knock International Airport, and they said, "How much of it do you want?" And we said, "We'll have that much, please." And they said, "Fine." And then they cut it up and they delivered it. And exactly as you just said, that made a huge difference in people believing the dream, believing the vision that actually we could do this and it would actually become such an important thought developer.
Well, look, Chris, thanks for inviting us here tonight to experience it. I'm yet to do the tour, but when I do, I will give you my feedback as to how it was. So thanks again. And good luck with everything. Thank you. Cheers. Okay, so we can't come to the Wayfinding Centre in Dublin without giving a final word to Ken Fitzgibbon from EirTrade, boss of EirTrade, and also a big partner of this amazing centre. So Ken, tell us about what it means to you sort of personally, but also professionally as EirTrade to be involved in this.
I suppose personally and from an EirTrade point of view, it's been a fantastic journey to do this and give something back to other people. We're good at taking a lot from aviation, but it's nicer to give something back to help individuals in the Wayfinding Centre.
Yeah. And just a word on why it's important that aviation in general becomes more accessible. We've heard today, and we've actually seen it ourselves, that getting on an aircraft can be extremely difficult if you've got any kind of visual or physical impairment. So, and as the population ages and people are more wary of their environment, why is it important that aviation takes this kind of thing seriously?
Well, I think when you come here today, you can see how hard it is for people to access an aircraft. And in doing this type of training, allows it to make people more comfortable, a lot more easier to get onto an aircraft. It also makes the airlines a lot easier to bring people onto an airframe or into an aircraft. This has been an enjoyable journey, but it's also been great to watch people learn and make their life easy.
Yeah, I tell you what I took away from it, because you've got the airframe that you obviously were very much involved in bringing into the centre. But actually, when you look at the taxi, the bus, the coach, that's all part of a journey that might end up going on an aircraft. So if you are in a wheelchair, if you are visually impaired, the whole journey can be an absolute nightmare from beginning to end. So actually, this is part of a combined effort on behalf of the transport industry in general to make things better, and that includes private and public working together, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But I think when you look at here today, I think everybody from different transportation companies have pulled together to give something back. But this is the only one in Europe now that people can come and learn. And if we make it easier for people to travel, that's good for everyone.
Yeah. Well, look, we've really enjoyed coming out and seeing it, Ken. So thanks for inviting us. And if you do get a chance, do come and pop into the Wayfinding Centre if you're in the industry and have a look for yourselves, because it is a real eye-opener and a real education. And we've really enjoyed being here this evening. So thanks very much. And
That's no problem. It took you long enough.
Look, so it's been open last year. We've been pretty quick, really. So no, generally it's been a real eye-opener, and we're very, very happy to feature it on ABNcast. So thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you.